This is From Pixels to Celluloid, a podcast about video game adaptations. I'm one half of your hosting duo for today, the Hypersonic 55, and my colleague, my friend. Please introduce yourself.
Hey there, I'm Vincent Ternita. I write for onemore.game.ph, and I guess I'm a podcaster here now.
And I think that was like your most normal introduction we've had so far.
I hope so.
Yeah. Because it always seems to be like some sort of weird bit that we do towards the beginning, but that was like probably the most straightforward. So yeah, I don't know. It was all right.
It must be the age.
Maybe. um but yeah, like, ladies and gentlemen, we've got like a few topics of discussion to bring up today. The main one will be our spoiler discussion on Mortal Kombat 2. It's been out in the cinema for just over a week and a bit now, so I feel like for us to go about and talk about this film in the best way possible, we need to dive into the spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen it, then go out and see it and come back, and if not, then we warned you. And then we also want to talk about that Resident Evil trailer as well, because when it initially came out, we were sort of busy, but I both believe we have stuff to say about it now that we have at least a glimpse of what this movie is going to be, because the discourse surrounding it was pretty insane during that first week. And I think I may touch upon my brief thoughts on Devil May Cry Season 2, because even though the whole thing's out, I've only seen the first 3 episodes, but I just wanted to touch upon it because, I have some thoughts. So, yeah, I guess we'll get into Mortal Kombat 2, the sequel to the notable film from 2021 titled Mortal Kombat. And before we get into the discussion with the new film, I just want to touch upon my thoughts, and I'll ask you, Vincent, about your thoughts about the previous one. Yeah, pretty much. There is no way to do this without thinking about that damn theme song. But yeah, I remember on my other podcast, Film Focus, I was talking about this film for a while, from the time that it was announced to the first images to the first trailer and then the subsequent trailer. I had been looking forward to that film for ages because we hadn't had a live action Mortal Kombat film since Annihilation in 97, I think. And that film is all sorts of terrible, but it's also hilarious. That film brings me much joy, but it's not good. It's ambitious, but it just didn't have the right creative vision to pull that off. So Mortal Kombat 2021 comes out, and I've always described it as the film that was so close yet so far, because on the one hand, you have Joe Towson and Hiroyuki Sanada as Sub-Zero and Scorpion. Their introduction portion of the film was great, and their fight towards the end was pretty good. And I like the way they utilized Sub-Zero as this sort of boogeyman running around taking people out. The use of his ice powers was cool, and some of the fatalities were pretty sick, especially with Liu Kang versus Cabal, and he uses that fire dragon on him. And some of the action stuff was cool, and I liked certain aspects of the film, especially the film score from Benjamin Wolfish. I thought it was a nice mix of orchestral and a little bit of electronic stuff. And he used the original techno syndrome as a leitmotif throughout the movie in really good ways. But the film introduced a lot of really weird things. Firstly, Cole, who shouldn't have been there, just the plainest of plain people, uninteresting in every way. He has a family, and I think that's his most notable attribute. And then he gets literal plot armor, which was just insane. The idea of arcanas was just strange with the whole what do you call those damn things? The weird dragon tattoos that everybody had. And
did they have that in Annihilation too?
yeah, and it was so weird because the weird little dragon came off of the person, flew up into the screen with the same repetitive animation, and then just disappeared. I'm like, what the hell is that? But yeah, all the people from Outworld were basically jobbers. They were all really trash. When you're making someone like Goro look bad, that is impressive. The coolest person in the movie got killed. That was Kung Lao, because he, messed up Natara in a really cool way, only to get his soul sucked by bloody Shang Tsung. But there was no tournament. Several of the characters felt underutilized. It was a little too serious, and the dialogue wasn't great. I defended that film for a little while, but upon watching it recently, hours before watching the new one, I was like, yeah, this film don't hold up as well. I still like it, but it's still a far cry from what it should be. So, Vincent, what did you think of the 2021 movie?
But you forgot the best thing about the movie, and it's Kano.
Oh yeah, crap.
Josh
Oh my
Lawson.
gosh. I am so sorry I didn't put him in the positive section. Honestly, every time he was on screen when I rewatched the original, I was like, "Oh wow, he really is carrying this film." He had so many good moments and his timing was fantastic. There was like one moment where he was held hostage by like Sonia in her house and she was talking to Cole. And there was one thing that she said and he basically just did womp womp from a distance. The timing of that is perfect. So yeah, like I forgot to mention terribly, but yeah, Josh Lawson was like the star of that original.
Well, yeah, Mortal Kombat 2021. That was quite a mixed bag, really. It's just tonally lopsided, you know? Like you're expecting more fights, you're expecting a tournament, you're expecting Mortal Kombat, right? You're expecting like a certain level of camp and cheese, and yeah, that semi-serious bit kind of took a lot away from it, especially when they're trying to get all these fighters who are known for their fighting to try to deliver like long lines, right? Like it just I don't know, it just didn't seem to land for me. I mean, the fights were great when it happened, but yeah, like let the actors do the acting, let the fighters do the fighting, and I would say yeah, then of course yeah, there's Cole,
Ugh.
everybody's like favorite ragdoll basically at this point. Um, yeah, like nothing else that you've said that I haven't really like touched upon. It's fairly straightforward. Though back in 2021, it's one of the films that I really didn't like that year. It was basically bottom three with I think Let There Be Carnage basically topping
Ugh,
that one.
God. Yeah.
Or did Carnage come out the following year? I liked Morbius more than Mortal Kombat at a certain point.
That's a statement. Damn. Yeah. I guess. I mean, that's just like picking two types of like poison. Like one might just be like slightly what will kill you slower. I don't know.
I would,
God.
yeah, I'd use a scatological comparison, but I don't know if we want to get the
Yeah.
certain
um.
different types of, yeah,
Yeah.
bodily fluid.
Maybe some other time. I don't know.
Maybe some other
um.
time.
But yeah, like with Mortal Kombat 2, I think a lot of people had a notable and understandable amount of apprehension. You were bringing back the same director, most of the original cast, but they had made some changes in terms of the writer and they changed the cinematographer as well. And from the interviews that were coming out about this film, I'd literally read almost every one, anything to do with the director, the producer, Ed Boon, who was talking about this film a lot more, and the cast as well. They were all saying, "We've heard the fan feedback. We're going to make some changes." And as soon as the first trailer came around, it was clear that there was definitely some changes going on. You could tell that there was a little bit more budget in the movie. The location seemed more in line with the games. There was more color, and you could tell that there was more humor involved. And obviously, the big notable introduction of Johnny Cage being played by Carl Urban as well. He was pretty much the most notable person that's been attached to this franchise, which is definitely going to attract a bunch of people who had no interest. But given his notoriety on The Boys and now some of the recent films he's been in as well, more eyes are on him now than there have it has been for a while. So having him join the Mortal Kombat universe as an older Johnny Cage is bound to get some people talking, and it did. So the second trailer definitely worked for me a lot more because the first one I'm like, yeah, I can see where they're going with this, but I'm still not sure. I saw the film opening night. I actually saw it in this thing called 4DX over here in the UK, which is like imagine like watching your film, but you're on seats that move around. So it's almost like you're on a weird roller coaster, and you have steam coming into the cinema, flashing lights, and weird little things that can spray you from your seat.
Were there pins coming out from the hand rests, like when you're at
Mate,
the
if that
pit?
had happened, my
Yeah.
mum would have like literally like had a heart attack or something. I don't know. Thankfully not, but there was a lot of like seat movement for any sort of key thing that was happening. Any punches, kicks, fireballs, or someone got murdered in a notable way. The chair was just jiggling all over the place. It's like Christ. It was almost distracting at certain times because I'm like, I'm trying to lean forward just to try and focus on the fight while my chair is freaking out, having a heart attack. Um, but yeah, like straight up, I enjoyed this film quite a bit. I really had fun with it. Fun is literally the word I would plaster on this. It feels like an improvement on the last film in every way, in the sense that the fights are more consistent. There is a lot more fatalities going on. I feel like there's a better use of characters overall. Everyone had a part to play. I like the visual design of most of the film. You know, again, colors, better lighting, everything just seemed improved. And there were definitely some standout characters who I didn't expect to take center stage. But yeah, I would say it was really good. Just obviously some issues in the story and character department. And if you're a stickler for being lore accurate, there are definitely some changes that I could understand some people being like, kind of pissed off about. But otherwise, I had a good time with it. So yeah, Vincent, your immediate thoughts?
Well, yeah. One thing that I noticed is like how the film was delayed. It was supposed to come out last year, and whatever it is that they did between October and like this month, basically when it came out, I think it really worked well. But then again, like it's a Mortal Kombat movie, you know. The bar is pretty much set at the lowest point
Fair.
from the 2021 film. So I'm just gonna go, what else can they possibly screw up with at this point, right? I guess Cole can give birth to Scorpion at this point, and I really wouldn't care, right? So
That would be a very strange movie, man. Oh my god. I can only imagine
but
how much. God, I'm just trying to figure out how, like, the internet would react to that, man. Like, God.
I am Scorpion, like rips his face and like Scorpion. Okay, now we're in fan fiction territory. But
Yeah.
but anyway,
Um.
I really enjoyed what they did. But then again, if you bring your brain to a Mortal Kombat movie, it says a lot about you. Basically, leave my brain at the door. See, like, see what they can do to entertain me, and it's very entertaining. And it like I really felt it's the Mortal Kombat film in 2021 that I expected going into. Well, I really didn't go into it. Like, basically watched it on streaming at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the film that you're coming in to watch. That's the film that like all the expectations I had. But yeah, the campy feel, all the Mortal Kombat fatalities, all the like the last time I played Mortal Kombat really was like Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on the PS1, like it's been a while. But yeah, like it does have all the moves that like you've played in the games, and every time Shao Kahn spams his freaking shoulder ram, I'm like, like, are you trying to rage bait me?
Yeah. And I know there's a lot of people that say, the discussion about these films when it comes to them being released, and they say, the filmmakers say it's for the fans, and the fans say it's for the fans. And that can be used as a positive or negative thing depending on who you talk to. But sometimes it's those subtle things that fans recognize that add that extra sprinkle of joy to it. And anyone that's played Mortal Kombat to a notable degree will remember how much of a prick Shao Kahn is to fight against. That guy spams moves like it's no tomorrow. He's like he anticipates everything you could do and literally just keeps throwing himself at you. And he will taunt at you as well, like a punk. And this film really demonstrated how monstrous and unfair it is to go up against that guy. He's such a beast. And it's that and a few other small visual references to the games where I'm just like, these guys know exactly what they're doing. I'm having a good time with this. So, as stated before, this is like spoiler territory now. So, we're just going to touch upon things. I have like some positives and maybe negatives. And Vincent, if you just wanted to vibe off of those or like, jump in
Sure.
whenever you wanted, that's cool. But I wanted to start with the characters because this cast is fairly huge. I think this is the biggest Mortal Kombat cast we've had next to Mortal Kombat Annihilation. And that film had a very difficult task of balancing 50,000 people on top of like the four that we had from the previous movie. And even then, only two of them were the same actors from the last one because Raiden and Johnny Cage got recast. And
Mhm.
Johnny Cage was barely in the movie. He just showed up just to get got. Got his neck snapped at the start of the damn movie. And then the rest of that film was just about, the weird lineup of people where that camera panned along and you saw all sorts of random people who would eventually show up in the movie. and just random fights happening at different points in the film of varying degrees of quality. Jack's
Mhm.
going up against, like, some of the dudes from the Cyber Initiative. And then I think there was Melina and like Sonya Blade were fighting in the mud. And I'm like, what sort of fight is this? This is just like, what is going on? And then Liu Kang and Shao Kahn, they do their weird animalities, and it's the jankiest, ugliest looking CG ever. And for some reason, Shao Kahn's like some giant Hydra thing. Anyway, we're going into a different territory. But anyway, luckily we didn't have to deal with that. In this film, we have all the characters primarily from the last one, save for Melina. I guess they didn't want to resurrect her for some reason. But then you have the introduction of characters like Katana, Johnny Cage, Quan Chi, Shao Kahn, King Jared for a little bit, but he got. And Sindel. Sub-Zero is technically back, but now he's Noob Saibot. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of management going on here, but I feel like when it comes to the Earthrealm people, they were all pretty good. They came in, they did their thing. One thing I didn't expect was like how many of them were gonna die. This film had more stake than the last one because,
Mhm.
say for Kung Lao, everybody else got out of the last film fine, but you saw Jax gone, Liu Kang gone, but in a very like dramatic way. I'm like, are they alluding to his fire god abilities when he just
Yeah,
like decided to
yeah.
evaporate into the sky like that? And Cole Young,
Cole,
Christ
Cole,
almighty. Let's start
Cole,
there actually.
Cole,
I
Cole,
think
Cole.
anybody who watched that last film had absolute level of vitriol towards this man. Some people were a little nicer about it. I've got no beef against Lewis Tan. I've liked him in
Mhm,
certain things. He was one of the better parts of Iron Fist, I think season
mhm.
1. And in the show Into the Badlands, he was actually a pretty decent character in there. So when loads of people were cussing him off when he was cast in Mortal Kombat 2021, I was like, why? I don't think he's that bad. But yeah, again, his character was given nothing to do. So in this new one, I like how he's trying to school Johnny on, oh yeah, this is Mortal Kombat. If you don't want to be here, you can go home. And I'm like, Cole, shut your ass up, man. Like, what's wrong with you? You think you're like some hardcore, like vintage person. Mate, you've been here for a little bit. And so then when they set him up against Shao Kahn in the friggin' acid pits, I'm like, not only are we in an iconic stage, which was beautifully rendered, by the way, but him going up against Shao Kahn, I'm like, this is not going to end well for you, my
It's
son.
not gonna end well, yeah.
And they gave him a little monologue before it. I was like, ooh, okay. But he did well. They actually gave him some pretty good fight scenes against him. The choreography was pretty decent. And
Mhm.
it's strange. Had Shao Kahn not had his little
Shoulder ram.
advantage with the
Shoulder ram.
yeah, if he didn't have the advantage of having the was it Shinnok's amulet to power him up, he might have actually taken him out. But oh
Yeah.
my gosh, Shao Kahn came back and let him know who was boss. Cole got decimated. They squashed the man's head like a melon with that damn hammer. And I was genuinely just sort of shocked but laughing at the same time. It's just like, I don't know if you call it nervous laughter, but I was just like, ah. And then they push him in the acid pit and the boy got cooked. I was like, oh God. I was like, mate, I have never seen such a disrespectful death. I was like, mate, I can only imagine how many people are like, absurdly satisfied with this. I'm like, I knew he was going to die. I kind of hoped he would, but I was like, mate, it was disgusting.
Yeah, like at that point, like the head smash, I think sure, like there will be somebody that'll get smashed by that hammer. Because when like King Jared got stabbed by it, I was like, I thought he's gonna get his head smashed by that hammer,
Yeah.
really pushing like Kitana's like vengeance, right? But no, like he actually respected King Jared a lot more than like anybody else, I guess, in this film. But yeah, smashing his face in, like someone had to get it, and like cool, it's cool, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, good job, good job, like Mortal Kombat. And then but pushing him to the acid is like, okay, that was not necessary. But then again, that also like, we see Quan Chi bringing people back to life. And spoiler, like Kano got brought back to life. Like nothing happened to him, like when he was brought back. To the point where like even Quan Chi said something like, I'm not even gonna spend an extra minute turning him into a revenant. So he gets the best out of both worlds, I
Yeah.
guess. And then melting down Cole to like nothing, just basically leaves room for like no resurrection, I guess, unless, he's in his own garden in hell, same way like Scorpion is in his own garden in hell, I guess. Maybe he's with Scorpion now, cultivating his freaking bonsai trees, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, man, it was just like, wow. I was satisfied, but just kind of shocked at the same time that that's how far they would go for that guy. But considering this is Shao Kahn, literally one of the most intimidating, aggressive, and coolest guys in Mortal Kombat, you probably want him to do something pretty significant that would make you go ooh and ah. And I think the physicality was there, the voice was there, and every person he went up against had a hard time. And again, he technically had a bit of an advantage, but even on top of that, from the time he first showed up and fought King Jared, like King Jared, actually, I want to shout out him a little bit because as far as I've seen in any of the games, he never had any like significant moment to fight Shao Kahn. So the fact that they made him a fighter and had a pretty cool battle for him, it almost kind of reminded me of the situation in Game of Thrones where like was it Prince Oberyn went up against like was it
the
the
mountain,
Mountain?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a mountain,
And
yeah.
it almost felt like that kind of situation where like King Jared was doing a little pretty well for a bit, but I'm like, something gonna go bad for you, my son, and it did. He got fucked. But yeah, like Shao Kahn, his physicality was really good. I quite enjoyed this, and Shao Kahn has not had too many like live action iterations. He's only showed up in the Mortal Kombat Annihilation and in the Conquest TV show, and this is definitely his best appearance by far. But I want to touch upon like maybe my three favorite people in the movie, and that would be Kitana, Johnny Cage, and Baraka. I think
Mm,
each of them added something really fun to this movie. I'll touch on Johnny Cage first. Now, obviously, this film was sold with Johnny Cage as like the main new star. He pretty much had the character arc that I think Cole should have had in the first one.
yeah.
But I also just like the idea that, we've seen Johnny Cage in his youth and seen him grow up a little bit during the NetherRealm studio games. But to see a Johnny Cage who used to be somebody, who used to be a martial artist, who used to be a notable film star, but like his career's gone to crap. He's hanging around at conventions where he's the most irrelevant person there. And that short film, like that segment of his film, it was so cheese, but in the best way. That woman with the bloody rocket launcher, and he did the splits to like jump out of the way, but the fact that the rocket hit that helicopter and it exploded in the way that it did, the way she got killed as well, I'm like, this is so dumb. This is great though, but I like the fact that Johnny Cage, he's very much just not down for any of this, even after he's shown the sort of magic and the otherworldly nature of what he's a part of. He's still just like, yeah, no, I don't think I'm going to be into this right now. But after his little pep talk with Raiden, he's like, you know what, let's get in on this. And while I think someone did bring up the fact that it does feel like he didn't have as much of a transition between being a non-believer to being part of the crew, I still feel like his character art worked well because he sort of found his groove, especially with his fight with Baraka. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my god, that was genuinely one of my favorite things. The fact that Johnny Cage basically just sort of utilized his old moves from his old movie, but then brought them into the fight with Baraka as well. It was so dumb and stupid, but it was genuinely the funniest thing ever. Just seeing Carl Urban waving his arms around with those glasses and smiling. I'm like, this is it was the perfect kind of dumb. And the fact that he did like, the punch to the nuts as well with this place.
Hmm.
And then him and Baraka forming this weird, like sort of like, student teacher relationship as well, and Baraka being stupidly impressed. Ah, the comedic timing for that was great. Urban was a really good like introduction to this world. He fit in really
Yeah.
well, and I had a good time with him.
Yeah, he has that like sort of Steven Seagal type of feel to him, like just
Mm,
being there, being the washed out actor, being super self serious. But the thing that really saves him is his own like self awareness, right? Goes
yeah,
to a bar, like one of the fans comes in, and he's just like, nobody wants another one of me. Like I'm just
yeah,
an old guy trying to get by in every day of his life, and it's so relatable, and that like he's been chosen to represent Earth. It's like the most absurd thing. Like, why me? Like, seriously, have you seen what I do? What the hell? Like it's so self aware and yeah, like yet so relatable. Like how many call to adventure type of things coming on. Most people would like jump on the chance, but he's just like. why me, you know? And then,
Yeah.
they show his past. Like, he had a very illustrious career as a martial artist before he got into Hollywood, and then Hollywood basically destroyed him. Yeah, that typical, like, rags to riches, riches to rags type of story. And now here we are. Really great, like, really makes for a good co-protagonist, because I guess we have the Outer Realms protagonist, which is Katana, basically denied of her birthright and now has to serve Shao Kahn for the rest of her childhood, basically losing her childhood, family, everything in the process, even her friends, right? Like, Jade was her best friend, but then still, right? Like, sworn to forced loyalty to Shao Kahn. And yeah, I guess that segues into your Katana bit.
Yeah, man. Like Adeline Rudolph was really, really good. I thought she looked cool in the trailers, but the fact that this film has her pretty much as the central focus was pretty interesting. From the outset, like you said, we see her like childhood with the death of her father, like the subjugation of Edenia, and then Shao Kahn saying, "Yo, you're my daughter now, and your mum is mine as well." And the fact that she's been slowly training for the day that she could finally confront him, and obviously secretly running off to Earthrealm to communicate with Raiden to try and give them intel on what's going on. I thought her character art was really cool, and the representation of her, not only physically but also in terms of her characterization, it felt very much like the games. The fact that she got as many moments to shine, not only with her fight with Johnny Cage, but also a fight with Shao Kahn towards the end of the movie, it felt very satisfying that it was her that would end up taking him out. And she got to take him out in a really cool way, man. She made good use of those fans, and the fact that it was a pretty kick-ass, like, fatality, expanded the fans spinning and like cutting the dude's head. I'm like, oh, this is nice. This is very satisfactory. I think it was my sister who made me aware of this, and I was like, oh, I can see it now. But Adeline really does look like the little sister of like Olivia Munn. They look pretty
Yeah.
similar, and I was like, huh, yeah. I mean, I guess like if there was some weird crossover, I guess you could get her as like Katana and like I don't know if anybody would want this still, but like get Olivia Munn to dress up as Psylocke again, and then they could fight each other that way. But I think yeah, Adeline just did a really good job. Katana, I've liked her in the games, but she's never been like one of my like go-to favorite people ever. And I think I can't remember the name of the actress from the 95 movie. She was good, but again, we've never seen Katana as a proper representation of a video game character running around fighting, doing a lot of the physicality of the fights and utilizing her weaponry. Again, her backstory was good. Her animosity towards Shao Kahn was cool, and the fact
Mhm.
that she has this friendship with Jade, which is tested because Jade has this alliance to Shao Kahn that needs to be upheld as well. And seeing that friendship fracture, I just vied with so much of that.
Mhm. And what's this I'm reading about, like, Adeline Rudolph having an actual twin sister, and now fans are are petitioning for her to come back as Melina, right? So
Yeah, I mean, like it's weird because again, one of the strangest decisions in Mortal Kombat history is to include Melina in that first film and only allude to Katana with like one of her fans in the in Raiden's temple. But it barely felt like Melina because she didn't really get to do much of Melina's stuff. And a lot of what makes Melina important and interesting is this relationship to her sister because she's a clone. She was created by Shao Kahn to be like the daughter that he wanted, and
yeah.
she's made from like I think Tarkatan like DNA as well. And the
Mhm.
fact that all of that was sort of thrown aside for just an early appearance in that film, but these two don't look the same. And I guess Melina's body is still intact, so Quan Chi, if he really wanted to, he could get her back. But
Oh yeah, as
uh,
a revenant too, like, it's
yeah,
not
but
that
I don't
hard
know. I
if
mean,
they
we
really
could.
wanted to.
I mean, if they really wanted to, they could just like say, we're just gonna do Melina again, except this time we're just gonna borrow the actress that looks like her. I don't know, we'll see. But it would be interesting if we did end up using her twin sister to be Melina. That'd be funny. But yeah, speaking of Tar Cottons, let's talk about Baraka. Baraka, man, what a lovely guy. Baraka, I've never really cared about him that much until I think maybe MK11 and then MK1, because I feel like they did more interesting things with his moveset, but also his characterization as well. And in this film, he's just this notable warrior of his tribe on the outskirts of the castle, I think. and he's a very intimidating dude. He's definitely a warrior who likes battle, but he doesn't want to waste his time with the Earth Realmers when they call to him for aid. But then when Johnny Cage starts talking shit, he's just like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna come after you. And their fight was pretty fun. I liked the way it was handled, but I also just liked the way it concluded. Johnny Cage was able to again utilize his history of like martial arts and being a film star to get the better of him in battle. And the way Baraka reacts is just so unexpected. He's just like, yo, that's the best fight I've ever had. Johnny Cage is the best guy ever. We're besties now.
Show
And
me your ways. Teach
yeah,
me your ways, master.
and I love that. I think, yeah, it's one of the things that I really enjoy about this film is just the different dynamics between characters, because in the games a lot of these people are either good guys or bad guys. There's not really much intersection there. Some of them can be anti-heroes, but or some of them change sides. But with this film, especially how they handled Baraka and Kano, people who again mostly are just there to fight the Earthrealm people, to see Baraka in a situation where he's friendly with Johnny Cage and wants to be his disciple, to the point where towards the end of the film, Johnny Cage is telling them stories by the campfire. I'm like, God, this is crazy. He looked horrible just like he did in the games. The utilization of his moves was cool. He was the right kind of dumb but intimidating at the same time. He was
Mhm.
great. I had a good time with him.
Yeah, that was one of like the better scenes that like I was waiting for like a good fight to come up, and then that showed up, and it basically is a turning point for Johnny Cage's character. And watching it on IMAX, they had this really subtle thing, like we had it at the 16:9 aspect ratio, and
Oh
when
yeah.
the fight started, it started like shooting up to this full IMAX like shot screen, and I was just going, wow, this is fantastic, just watching this like hilarious fight, and basically culminating in that caged heat like final move
Mm.
where Baraka's just going, what am I doing? What is going on? But while all of us are going like, is he gonna get his ass kicked and like carved up? It's like, no, like they went all the way with it, and yeah, that was really fantastic time. Like that was great.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I want to stick these two together. I want to touch on Ludi Lin and Max. I'm not sure how to say his last name. I think it's is it Huang or like Hang?
Huang,
I'm not too sure. Huang,
Huang.
sorry. But yeah, like that was Luke Hang and Kong Lao returning as a revenant, because ask anyone who saw this film, they will be talking about these two as the top tier highlight of the movie,
Yeah.
because their fight was insane. Not only was it in a classic stage, recreated really well, but this fight was stupidly intricate with two people who are clearly like what the best martial arts in the
Hmm.
film, best martial artists, save for like what Joe Towson, who we'll get to in a bit. But this fight was literally just the Shaolin monks going at it, utilizing their abilities. So Liu Kang with his fire, along with Kung Lao with his hat. But the fact that these two are fighting each other while Kung Lao's throwing that hat and is flying in between them as the fight's going on, I'm like, oh, tension, man. I'm like, oh, Liu Kang, watch out, man. Watch out for that hat. It's coming
Yeah.
back. It was just so well choreographed. There was a lot of time for you to be able to see the characters like punching and kicking, not too many quick cuts. The camera work was really good, and the way the fight ended was really, really solid as well.
Hmm.
With Liu Kang pulling Kung Lao onto his own hat and killing him, but then also having like just a smidge of an emotional center to it as well, where it's like, "Yo, man, brother, we're gonna bring you back, but not today." And I'm like, "Ah,
So good. Yeah.
heartbreak."
'Cause,
But it was,
yeah,
yeah, go on.
the thing with the hat in the ground, and I was just like, I know what's gonna happen to that hat because that's a cheap move I use.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was just like, you don't know that move set, Liu Kang? Okay, well. Yeah. That was so good. Yeah, it's one of those fights that could have been in Mortal Kombat, the first one in 2021, but they saved it for this one, and definitely one of the fights that I've really really like take it like come home and just it's one of the most memorable ones. Really, totally justified, totally satisfying to watch that scene.
Yeah, and it just made me want more screen time with those two because like Max and Ludi, they're like just really good at portraying their characters. It's just a shame that we have a film with so many people. You have to like,
Mhm.
give everybody their time to shine. And they definitely shone so bright in this movie, especially Ludi Lin. He looked even bigger as Liu Kang than he did before. I mean, he already
Yeah.
looked pretty ripped in the last film, but he looked like he put on a little bit more mass in this one. And he just looks great. His physicality was fab. And Max, again, this guy, he is just through and through just like a great performer. His
Hmm.
physicality was fantastic and he owned that revenant vibe so well. I was just like, man, I just wanted more. I was greedy. I was just like, that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I'm like, yo, I need more.
Yeah.
um, one thing we did get more of, thankfully, from the previous film was Josh Lawson's Kano. He came
Hmm.
back and immediately, it's like he didn't miss a beat, man. I kind of hoped that he would get his cybernetic, like, enhancements, but unfortunately, it was literally just him getting an eye instead. But he has so many great lines. I assume a fair amount of it might have been improvised, but
Hmm.
his comedic timing never failed, and it was fun when him and Johnny Cage were in the same scene because they both offered humor, but he offered a different brand of humor where it was a little bit more comedic focused. But his timing was great, and those two had a good back and forth. And Kano, I just like the fact that he played for the bad guys team before, but because Outworld doesn't have several things that the UK, like not the UK, I mean like Earth, should I say? I don't know why I'm thinking about the UK for some reason.
You
God.
can't.
Oh god, I mean he's an Aussie man. Oh gosh,
Hey, no.
I don't know what the hell I was thinking there for a quick second,
Hey,
man.
they probably have Tim Tams there too, right?
Yeah, but yeah, he was thinking about all the stuff that Earthrealm had, and he was like, "Yo, Outworld doesn't have that. Let me just go about and switch to your side. We can save the world so I can go back to just doing all of the deplorable things I was doing beforehand." So yeah, I just like how much like the games, but more so in this film, Kano is just out for himself. Whatever will put him in a good position, he'll just like stick with
Hmm.
that. So him joining like, the Earthrealm side was pretty fun.
Yeah. One thing that I really appreciated with Carl Urban just playing off Josh Lawson in that scene, like he recognized, like Carl Urban recognizes the rapid fire quips that Josh Lawson puts out, and and as a veteran actor, like he really played off of that. When with Raiden, he was more of the quippy guy, like just going off on, yeah, just being sarcastic with all the wisdom that Raiden was giving him. But then
Yeah.
with like against Kano, it's just like, okay, I am so outgunned with this guy, I'm just gonna let him do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really appreciated that, and it was pretty fun. And that whole fight in the hellscape would have been funny if like there was a grudge match between Sonya and Kano. But that's probably something for like Mortal Kombat 3, I guess, at this point. Um, Maybe even the introduction of Cassie Lang, right? Like,
Yeah.
never know. But when Quan Chi's still there, anybody can
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah. That is
Except for
fair.
Cole. Except
No,
for Cole. That guy's been obliterated. I don't like
yeah.
Jax definitely, they can just make him new arms. He just lost one arm and got shoulder rammed and shoulder rammed.
Yeah. And he
Fuck
got
that
impaled
shoulder
as well,
ram,
so he
man.
should be all right.
Such a rage bait thing. Like
I
every time I see
know.
Shao Kahn, it's just like, oh, I remember Mortal Kombat 2 and just spending like hours trying to beat him. He was so cheap. Oh, don't know.
The worst. And just in terms of like I guess the other two people who I liked, seeing Sonya and Jax back, they did their part. I mean, I guess their roles felt a little bit more diminished because of like the other people involved. But again, seeing them get to fight, have their interaction with Johnny, and get to play up the humor a little bit. Like again, when going back to that bit where they were in Baraka's village and they were saying to Johnny, "Oh yeah, like you're gonna die," and when Johnny's looking back at them and they're all just like, "Yeah, you're going by," um, I feel like even in the small scenes that they had, I felt like they felt a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more relaxed in their roles, and I enjoyed the contributions to the movie. I just wish we got to see more of them. And I guess in terms of the other improvement stuff, I mean, I'd say the presentation overall just looked better. Like the CGI was like a lot more higher fidelity when it came to the elements of the characters' movesets, when it came to looking at certain areas of Edenia and Outworld. It was just a better set of clarity, even though the locations that the characters were immediately in were probably kind of small. Just the areas felt more expansive than they were before. Whereas on Earth in the previous film and Outworld, they just were a lot less distinctive. In this
Yeah.
film, you had like very game specific locations, and the fights had like all the gore and violence you would have wanted, but it just looked very clean, very nicely done. And again, the color that was implemented in this film was a lot of blues and reds and yellows. Even the implementation of like those weird glowing torches when the tournament was on, because that was the representation of the fighters that was on each side. And when someone won, the fire stayed lit and the other one would go out. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, they even have like a visual representation. That's pretty sick. I just like the way the visuals looked. And the costumes, I think they still are. They're a bit of a mixed bag because a lot of them look very game accurate. Some of them looking the best they've looked in live action so far. But some of them I'm still just like, I don't quite like the way that looks. Um, but like you said before, the film is self-aware, and I feel like there's a nice balance of seriousness and humor. Where this film is definitely silly, ain't no doubt about that. But I also feel like it rode the line between having those more dramatic and serious elements, whether it was stuff going on with Katana or Johnny or Liu Kang and Kung Lao, and the stakes of the nature of like, the Mortal Kombat tournament. Because as much as Mortal Kombat is a silly, strange thing that you could turn your brain off and have fun with, I do feel like it is the only, well, not the only, but pretty much of the fighting game franchises, this is the one that does have a story that you could mine for pretty good like story potential. And I feel like this
Mhm.
film has found that balance pretty well. So I'm very, pleased with what happened with all that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Street Fighter has a lot to live up to when it comes out in October. But yeah, whatever they did, as I said, like I'm just gonna repeat myself. Whatever they did with that delay period, they really used it well. And I remember you saying that the discourse online is a bit of a mixed bag as well.
Yeah, so initially I just looked up on Reddit and a few comment sections here and there to see what the vibe was like on the first day or two after the film came out, and a lot of people were liking it. Everyone said, "Oh yeah, much improved on the last one." They enjoyed the humor, loved Johnny, loved Katana, really liked Baraka, Shao Kahn, liked the fatalities. Loads of people talking about how Cole went out. It was a lot of people pretty happy about that. But then after about a week or so, I started to notice like a few other places that was just saying, oh, yeah, it was just okay, or it was mid, or that it's still not the Mortal Kombat film I was looking for. And here's the thing, like when it comes to Hollywood, I think a lot of people have very strange expectations when it comes to this stuff, because to make the Mortal Kombat film that fans would want, it depends on what era of Mortal Kombat you're coming into this from. Because if you're talking about the more recent NetherRealm stuff, then you have certain expectations of what Mortal Kombat should and could look like. But then if you go back to the PS2 Xbox era, there's all the extra lore that came with all those characters as the cast started to expand towards Armageddon. And then you've got just classic Mortal Kombat from the 2D to early 3D era, where story details were very sparse. You only had to find them in like the end of playing the game or the comics that came out at the time. There's a lot to mine, but to get it narrowed down to like the core essentials, you'd have to make cuts, you'd have to make changes. And with Hollywood as well, there's certain things that won't translate 100% as a direct adaptation. And with Mortal Kombat, considering all the weird changes and retcons, it's almost impossible to do that straight one to one. I do feel like if you had the right kind of director, you could end up casting a film with people who were actors but could also fight. And I think that's probably one of the key things that a lot of people are like kind of sad about, because I've still seen people complaining about the fight choreography and how stiff like Carl Urban is. And I think, again, you have to consider the character that they're trying to utilize in this version of the movie, who's an older person who's not quite in the same groove as he was before,
Yeah.
which again, I thought was a smart move. But yeah, just with this movie, I think there's a lot of people who are still looking for that Mortal Kombat legacy kind of thing. And don't get me wrong, Mortal Kombat Legacy has some really fun and interesting ideas in there. But I think with Mortal Kombat as it is, unless you were to do a series, I think that would be the best way to satiate people. But then you'd also have to throw a lot of budget in there. A lot of time would have to be spent, and you'd have to figure out what streaming area would be the best place to take that. It probably would be HBO Max, let's be real. But with Mortal Kombat, it's just such a big thing. You've got such a big winding story with so many characters. The only way you'd be able to make that work is if you had a series and dedicated so much time so that you could get every individual person to have their moment. But that's impossible. And I mean, Mortal Kombat and television, they could make it work. I mean, Conquest, for its flaws, wasn't too bad of a show. It just didn't have as much Mortal Kombat in there because there was a lot of its own original material that they tried to like mesh into it. Sometimes it was okay, and sometimes it was just like, why are we wasting time with this nonsense? But yeah, Mortal Kombat fans, they are a fickle bunch. And I can understand certain people's apprehension with the movie because, yeah, certain plot elements weren't as well developed as they could have been because there was a lot of stuff going on. There was a lot of characters. So naturally, certain people would have to be pushed to the background or redistributed. So if we're talking about negatives like characters like Sindel and Quan Chi, and even to a degree, Noob Saibot and Scorpion were sort of not done the best amount of justice because Sub-Zero and Scorpion, they're like the two poster boys of the franchise. And their
Mhm.
beef is one of the key things that travels through the entirety of this series. And it was pretty key at the first and last part of the first movie. But in this film, it's almost like an afterthought because they have so much more stuff going on with the Earth Realm and other outworld people that are in this tournament that these guys aren't brought in until they're necessary. But I can see a lot of people being pissed off with the fact that, oh, my boys, they're so underutilized, blah, 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 blah. And I'd say the only disappointment I had with the characters was probably Sindel because Sindel, she has a very notable aura about her. She is a queen who was taken away from her husband, served Shao Kahn. In the original continuity, she was like what sort of brainwashed to be like her brainwashed to be Shao Kahn's ally, but obviously with the Mortal Kombat 11 DLC, they retconned it so that she plotted with Shao Kahn to actually have Jared murdered, and I was just like, ugh,
Mm.
that kind of pissed me off. But anyway,
Too
besides
bad.
screaming, which was
You will
cool,
die.
yeah. Yeah. The memed line that will live in game adaptation history for the rest of eternity. But yeah, she did the screaming. Her fight with like Sonya Blade was okay, but considering all the stuff that she could do with her hair and how much of
Mhm.
a presence that she has in the games, I felt like she was just sort of undersold. Even after
Mhm.
she was brought back as a revenant, like she just didn't really do much. She was sort of like held by like Shao Kahn for a little bit, and then once we got to the end of the movie, no one really knew what happened to her. Did she run away?
Mhm.
No one knows. And Quan Chi, even though he did his little necromancy kind of thing, he didn't fight in the movie, which was kind of sad. I was like, I wanted to see him do some weird moves. And I guess the only other person which would be area of disappointment would be Raiden. Because
Yeah.
Raiden, he was there to, you know, again, be the coach of like the Earth Realm individuals and pass on advice. But once he got his throat slit, he's just there in like what some sort of floating coma for a little while. Although he's not really out, he's just barely hanging on to life with that weird line in his neck. But he just sort of floated there for a while until his powers came back. We've never seen Raiden actually fight in this series of movies. Whereas in at least Mortal Kombat Annihilation, as bad as that film was, Raiden actually did get to participate in the fight.
James from Mark.
Yeah, man. With that damn haircut too. Bloody hell. And the way he comes in on screen, man, where he just sort of flips out of nowhere and he comes into the screen with that new haircut. Oh, that film is hilarious. Raiden did feel a little underutilized. So yeah, character wise, that's a thing. And certain characters, I guess you could argue they weren't as powerful as depicted in the games, but power scaling is always going to be tricky when it comes to movies because there's going to have to be at least some downgrades of some kind in order to create something of note
Mhm.
for people to be able to like, you know, is it either succeed or fail. But yeah, I guess the only other thing that's of note is because this film took elements of the Mortal Kombat lore, certain things definitely felt different from the games. I think they were just like sort of movie changes that they did just to make that work. And I already saw on Reddit and certain other places, it was like, oh, well, this person was super depowered. Oh, why did they have to give like Shao Kahn a power up advantage. He didn't need it. Why are these guys breaking the rules of the Mortal Kombat tournament when this should be happening instead of this? And I'm like, I understand that, but at the same time, if we're talking about rules, Mortal Kombat, as far as I know, they have rules, but there's always people breaking rules anyway. Especially in the NetherRealm games, there's certain people that are supposed to be doing things according to the rules in quotation marks, but there's still cheeky man outworld people doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and certain things that get amended here and there as well, or retcon. So I just feel like people doing stuff outside of the tournament or breaking rules, it's just part of the course, really. So I didn't really see that as too much of an issue. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything there that you want to touch upon.
Well, from what like you've been saying, like since I'm not really a big like Reddit, not even a tourist at this point, it's just sorts of nitpicks that basically nitpicking on the movie for not being legacy, I guess. But that's the thing though. In terms of serving the plot, serving what the adaptation asked for, I think it did its job. That dual protagonist between Earthrealm's protagonist Johnny Cage and Outworld's protagonist Kitana, right? Being those two people moving the story forward towards defeating the main antagonist, which is Shao Kahn. I think it did its job, like as a film. It's just too bad that if they want a Scorpion and Sub Zero movie, then they should have a movie where they're the actual main plot. Whereas in the first game, yes, they are technically the B story at that point, since the A story is our favorite boy Cole, right? but they had their time. They had Mortal Kombat 2021. Too bad, so sad, right? Even Liu Kang pretty much admitted that he's not the main character. It was such a cheesy line. I'm not the chosen one.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's almost like they were
I was
speaking to the fandom.
laughing. No, it's just like I'm not two movies already, and I'm not the main fucking character. Maybe in the third one. Right?
Yeah, oh my god, it was
I
funny.
was cracking up. I was going like, "Wow, not even a love interest, right? Like, oh, I'm not the main character. Boo hoo. I guess I'll be a fire god now." Evaporates. So good.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was fun. But at the same time, like being a lapsed Mortal Kombat fan, player, whatnot, like I didn't mind it. Like I had more beef with the first one, like the 2021 one, not for being objectionably bad, but for being a little boring compared to
yeah,
this one.
oh yeah,
This one is like completely entertaining and I can get on board with this, but the first one, like there were parts that dragged. If it was like 15 minutes shorter or even 20 minutes shorter, like I would have gotten on board, right? Or tweak certain scenes to make it, you know make the pacing go faster, right? So like I would even like get behind Cole if he's just not Walter Whiting himself. Oh, I'll do it for my family type of thing every 5 seconds, right? Like, yeah, we get it. We're doing it for your family, right?
yeah,
Like whereas with Carl Urban, like he got it out of his system and then got the Baraka fight in, and then cool, we can all move on, right? Uh,
yeah.
but yeah,
That's
like
fair.
as I said, like a bunch of nitpicks, and if you're bringing your brain to a Mortal Kombat movie, there's something wrong with you.
But yeah, man, I'm down to see where this goes. I know it's not been like financially the biggest splash that they would have hoped for, given the fact that the first film showed up during COVID and it had a small cinematic run, but this one came out during like the sort of summer film season. So I'm assuming that they wanted to have something a little bit more notable in terms of the opening box office. But I'm hoping that
Yeah.
this film will at least make its money back because there is definitely more to mine here and there's a lot of interesting places that they could still go considering where Mortal Kombat goes after this, but we'll see. We'll see. And I'm also, again, just stupidly curious about how Street Fighter is going to approach everything because, again, Street Fighter is in the position where this film is now, as opposed to where Mortal Kombat was in its first entry. They're going balls to the wall in terms of like being silly over the top and crazy. But it seems like there is at least some sort of emotional center with the whole thing going on with Ryu and Ken, so I'm
Hmm.
wondering what's going on with that, and if we're still going to be following Chun Li and her whole thing, trying to infiltrate like the tournament to try and get to M Bison because of like her whole history as well. So I'm very curious to see what happens when October rolls around. Which one of these we'll
Yeah.
be talking about as the better film? Because again, literally having like some sort of 90s like revival of rivalry, except this time it's just in film form as opposed to the video games.
Yeah, like I am really looking forward to that. Seeing like how it does, like especially with what happened in the Game Awards.
Oh god, yeah.
Like just trying to stoke that like non-issue, like that whole, oh, at least we showed up in Game Awards, and I'm just like, and I was there, I was like in the audience, and I was just like, did he really say that? Like I turned to my side, like, did he really say that? We're bringing back console wars again too. Like with what consoles? It's pretty much all Nintendo versus PS5 at this point. Like what?
Yeah,
I mean, maybe
Christ.
Sega should like bring out another console and like really stoke the fire between Nintendo and.
I'd like for them to do that, but like this would require Sega to put out a little bit more than what they do at the moment. Because besides what Sonic, Yakuza, well, Like a Dragon now, and was it Persona? Those are like their sort of what key franchise, and there's other things in between. But they'd need at least like maybe double to triple the amount of
Mhm.
games to put out
Yeah,
just to be able to say, okay, this is a console where you'd actually want to play everything here as well. So I don't know, we'll see. I mean,
we'll see.
that would be a funny world to bring Sega back into the console market after like what 20 plus years of just saying now we're out.
Yeah, maybe the Sega Grandmaster system.
Oh man, that'd be fun. They could just give it a beard or like a walking cane or something. I don't know.
With AI and freaking VR and throw in a few more buzzwords in there. Have it transform like the Genesis,
Oh yeah,
32x, like a CD.
yeah. So you can make it into the forms of the other like weird versions of the console. Like you can go from like what Master System to like is it Mega Drive, and then you get the 32X, maybe even the CD. Throw that in there as well.
And then the Saturn, and
Oh yeah,
you can take it anywhere you want, like a freaking nomad, right? Like,
that'd be fun. How would they fit the optical disc in there? Because most of the other stuff is all cartridge based.
yeah.
Maybe
Well,
that's a conversation for another time, I guess. Yeah,
yeah. At this point, like, Steam's gonna take it home.
that's fair. I wonder
Yeah,
what the
they're
price is going to
releasing
be like
that
for that.
Steam PC thing, which is,
Yeah,
yeah. Anyway, off topic.
yeah. I guess like I don't have much more to add to the Mortal Kombat
Well, we can talk
conversation.
about like Adeline Rudolph's like other piece, the Resident Evil, right?
No, no, we're not going back there again. Hell no, you terrible man.
Well, we can talk about the other Resident Evil.
Yeah, yeah, we'll do that. Oh my god, man. I was just like, what is he talking about? I was like, oh no.
You don't remember Billy Wesker?
I try to forget, man. That was a rough time in my life. I never even finished that damn show. Um, I only like watched the first episode and then watched YouTube like video summaries and like essays afterwards. I thankfully missed out on a lot of pain and suffering. I mean, ugh, what a time. But yeah, moving on to something that shows a lot more promise. Zach Cregger's Resident Evil that will be showing up in September. If you've listened to the podcast before, you've heard that we have thrown our hat of support and concern for Zach Cregger in terms of this adaptation because obviously his previous efforts with Barbarian and Weapons has had us excited for what he could bring to Resident Evil because he has a certain flair and has a really good balance for implementing horror and seriousness, but also humor as well. And considering what Resident Evil is, especially when you go to the earlier entries in the series, that would be an interesting mix to implement into a Resident Evil movie. And obviously, we've had Resident Evil in various different forms in live action TV, live action film, and animated movies. And depending on who you talk to, it's either all bad, a mixed bag, or actually, yeah, I think it's just those two. But but yeah, with this, I have been excited for a while. I know some people have been apprehensive because Zach Cregger said, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to be using characters from the games. It's going to take place in the universe. It's going to be around the Raccoon City incident." But Again, not anything directly tied to the game. So everyone's just like, oh, why not a direct adaptation? And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, even if it was a direct adaptation, you'd still be pissed off. But anyway, the trailer came out, and the discourse online once that dropped was it was something else. I think it was mostly negative, but there was still a fair amount of support surrounding this movie. On the one hand, you had a lot of like diehard fans that were just like, this doesn't look like a Resident Evil trailer at all.
Mm.
There is no visible iconography. There is nothing to suggest that this is a Resident Evil film. If you called it anything else, you'd assume it was just like another new horror film coming out. And to a
Yeah.
degree, I understand that. But on the other side of the fence, you had people saying, well, have you not watched Zach Cregger's previous efforts? This guy has made films that people like, that have been critically and financially successful. He's breathing new life into this franchise that really doesn't require it, at least in terms of the adaptation department, given the last two entries. Ugh. So, yeah, I saw the trailer and I was just like, I get it. There's not really much in there unless you're really paying attention that looks like a Resident Evil kind of thing. But at the same time, I'm seeing certain stylistic choices which makes me think this could be something pretty cool. It's got the air of mystery, uncomfortable stuff, some weird visual imagery going on, and I'm vibing with it. So yeah, like Vincent, what did you think?
I do like the trailer, but it's really flirting and teetering on. I don't know if you remember Final Fantasy Spirits Within. Like
Ah, yes, I recall
it's
very
it's
much so.
made by Hironobu Sakaguchi, trying to flirt with like the general audiences, trying to bring them the Final Fantasy lore. But not even a chocobo, like nothing except for Sid, I guess. It just, if it wasn't Final Fantasy Spirits Within, if they didn't have the Final Fantasy on the cover, it could have been a very decent sci-fi movie. But since it has that Final Fantasy stamp on it, people were expecting, Final Fantasy 7. Still the most popular Final Fantasy that came out like at the time in 2001, I think. But with this one, yes, like yeah, I'm certain Umbrella's going to make themselves known at a certain point. Monsters will make themselves known at a certain point, but right now it's really bordering on that. And he did mention that, like, if he didn't get the Resident Evil franchise attached, he would have just made the same movie. That's the thing. That's the biggest red flag that I have for the film. But then again, I'm down. I'm down with whatever he creates. But as a Resident Evil movie, cautiously optimistic, seeing what he does when the actual movie comes out. Because right now, too early to tell. Way too early to tell. I really have to see it before I can give like a real objective opinion. Because yeah, dangerously close. just right there. Like I don't release another trailer at this point.
Yeah, I think what they might be doing again, I'm probably projecting or just like theorizing at this point, but this is a teaser trailer. This is like super early, and you're never going to see too many key details with that kind of stuff, at least in the traditional sense of teaser trailers. Because obviously, teaser trailers these days can mean one or two things. You can either get a teaser trailer that's 2.5 minutes long and it will show you a lot of key details that will be a part of that movie, or you'll be having teaser trailers that are giving you just the bare minimum and inviting you a peek behind the curtain, but barely anything. And I feel like this film trailer is doing more of the latter. And
Mhm.
I can only assume that once we get the official trailer, that will probably be closer to 2 minutes long. They may be showing like more of those iconic, more notable, recognizable elements that people would associate with Resident Evil. I guess it just depends on what happens when the film comes out, because again, there's a lot of films that promise ideas and fills your mind with like expectations, and then you watch it and it's like, this was not what you promised me. So I'm kind of curious to see what this turns out like, because there are a few films that people have been discussing that Hollywood have adopted, like, a franchise for when it was already a thing beforehand. So, there were
Mhm.
certain films that had scripts, or like, certain films that were, being made under a different thing, but then they decided to slap a name of a notable IP on top to go about and generate like hype for it. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I'm just curious to see what side of the fence this film falls on, if it works as a Resident Evil film or if it just works as a horror film that should have just had a totally different title. Because yeah, I mean, Resident Evil, it's got a very interesting history in terms of its tone and how it's been handled. It's definitely swung more in the serious side for a lot of the more recent entries, especially with the remakes as well. And I like to be scared when it comes to Resident Evil. Like some of those games, when it hits you in that right kind of way, it can be atmospheric, it can be scary. And I don't think there's been any Resident Evil films that have ever captured that fear, captured that, like, sort of like, I don't want to peek around the corner. I am unsettled. The first film that Paul W.S. Anderson did in 2002, it was decent, but I wouldn't say that film was crazy scary. I think tonally, though, that was probably the best one because it at least still felt like a horror movie. And say what you will about those films, but at least the first film had a lot of signature stuff from the games in terms of the Umbrella Corporation, certain enemies. So I'm curious, like, I don't know how much restrictions Craig is going to place on terms of incorporating that game stuff. I guess we'll see when another trailer comes around because, like, I don't know if they're going to release that around the time that Summer Games Fest comes around or if it's going to be a little later than that. Because after like Summer Games Fest in June, you only have like what 3 months separating you from that movie, or maybe just a little less than that. I don't know. So yeah,
Yep. Hey, what a year, right? Like, you have Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat films coming out this year, and now you got a
hmm
Silent Hill and a Resident Evil coming out in the same year. What are the odds, right? Like,
I know, man. This is like just again a very stacked year for like video game adaptations, and
too bad Sonic's coming out next year. Would have been a
I
Mario and a
know that would have
Sonic
been
at the same year.
that would have been really funny if we'd had like Sonic 4 and the second Mario film come out in the same year. Oh god, the fandom would have went mad. That would have been so funny. Depending on how Sonic 4 turns out, and with Nintendo having that unannounced film for 2029, I think, which some people are speculating that could be the year that the next Mario animated Illumination movie comes out. If Sonic does continue his like track record of coming out every sort of like 2 to 3 years, then if they were able to get a movie out by 2029, we could see Mario and Sonic like, fighting against each other in the cinema, which would be really fun. I know the fandoms would go crazy because again, we're in this weird era now where the Illumination Mario films have their diehard fans that will fight anybody tooth and nail for the quality of that movie, even though like both of them just are so devoid of the key essentials of film making and quality when it comes to story and characters. Whereas the Sonic films, while they may not look exactly one to one like their game counterparts, they have the story and character department down a lot better and just tend to be, I wouldn't say more well received, because depending on who you talk to, it's either like a case of, oh yeah, they're good or they're bad or they're indifferent. And the Mario ones is either just like love or hate. There's just no in between. Well,
Mhm.
besides a fraction. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, Resident Evil, man. I just want a friggin' win for this franchise. Something that resembles the games, but is new and can stand on its own and can just be like something can get the normies in as well as like get the fans on board. Because if this doesn't work, then we're just gonna have to go back and reset the damn board again. And I don't know if I can be asked to deal with that again.
Or they can just not do anymore.
I would like to think so, but considering Capcom are, in a really good position with their video games, I think they would probably want to try and like expand the Resident Evil reach as far as they can take it. I don't
Mhm.
know, maybe they might just wait until the next entry comes around and maybe try to do some sort of synergistic thing with like a new adaptation again. But I don't know, we'll see.
Or they can just adapt Pragmata and release it on Father's Day. Like, seriously. There's money there.
I know. I mean, like considering how much that game is sold already, and how many people, especially on social media, have like really gotten on board with like the relationship between like is it Huey and Diana?
Hugh.
Hugh. I could see if they made a film and struck the right kind of balance, it wouldn't be too difficult to do. I mean, obviously, you'd have a lot of like work to do in terms of like matching that aesthetic and maybe getting some of the scale and CGI and practical locations down. But with that core relationship, is set in one location and it's primarily those two throughout the
Hmm.
main story. So that could work. I'd actually like to see that if they got the right cast for that. That would be pretty
Hmm.
good.
Yeah,
Um,
just de-age McKenna Grace again. Make her play like a kid again. Right? Who's
Christ.
gonna play McKenna Grace as a child?
Oh God.
McKenna
Um,
Grace playing herself as a
how much
child.
crouching is she gonna end up having to do there? Like, is she gonna have a child body double, and then they're gonna have to superimpose her face on there, but they're gonna have to use
No, no,
archive
no.
footage to deep fake?
It's gonna be Anne Hathaway as a child
No,
playing
no,
McKenna
no.
Grace.
Oh my God. That's complicated. I don't like this anymore. I don't like this idea. Let's bail. No, thank you.
Abort mission.
I
Return to
guess,
Earth. Return to Earth.
yeah. I guess talking about like other Capcom franchises, I wanted to briefly touch upon like Devil May Cry Season 2 because that dropped I think earlier on this week on the 12th of May, and so far I'm liking it more than I expected to. If you listened to the podcast before, you'll know that my thoughts on that show's first season were fairly mixed. I enjoyed Johnny Young Bosch as Dante. There were some changes to his characterization, but I felt like for the most part, he still felt like the character from the games. And there was some really fun, stylish action during certain sequences. And I quite enjoyed certain aspects of the animation, certain plot points here and there. And again, hearing Kevin Conroy's voice for the final time in the portion of his performance that he did get to record, that was great. But I do feel like the animation was a little inconsistent for as many cool action sequences that we got. Certain times the animation did look a little choppy. They also had use of ugly 3D models for some of the villain based characters that just did not look good. It did not mesh well with the 2D animation. And with this being set in the real world instead of like the games world and utilizing a lot of like real world like politics and allegories and certain aspects of the writing that just didn't vibe with me. I'm like, you've got all this interesting game lore and you decided to insert all this crap into it instead. I wasn't vibing with it. Plus, as cool as the White Rabbit was, the way his story ended, I wasn't as pleased with, and Lady was just very insufferable. Her, along with certain aspects of the story and writing, just felt very try hard, and it just irked me throughout the entire show. And the way it ended, I was just like, ugh. But then I've watched the first three episodes of the second season, and it feels like we've sort of just kicked off from where we were with the last season. We've got the human world invading the demon world with the stuff going on with Darkcom and their plans to go about and get like these interesting artifacts that are going to prove useful at some point later on down the road. Virgil is a part of the mix now and has his part to play. You get to explore more of the history and backstory with him and Dante as children, learn about a few things that led up to like the tragic incident in their childhood. Lady is a heck of a lot more tolerable in this season as opposed to before. She's not swearing like a bloody sailor every other second, and she seems to have her rough edges sanded down a little bit. And the relationship between her and Dante is fun, and there are a little bit more anime isms implemented into the show in terms of certain visual aesthetics and certain character interactions or certain things that happen in scenes where I'm like, okay, this definitely feels way more Japanese than it did beforehand. And obviously, anime is a term that's like sort of like more general as a style as opposed to emanating from Japan specifically. But this show is definitely feeling like still a Western animated show, but still has like more of those Japanese sensibilities a little bit more. But the first action sequence with Lady entering the demon world, very well animated, very nicely storyboarded. And once we get to see Dante back in action, seeing him get to do his thing with his guns, which you got to see in part of the trailers, very slick, very nicely done. There is still some issues in terms of like this show's politics that I'm not quite keen on. There's
Mhm.
certain aspects of the show that still feels a little try hard, and some of the stuff that this show is alluding to has no subtlety at all. It's basically banging you over the head. Hey, man, this is what this means. Do you recognize what we're trying to say to you? And I'm like, yo, chill out, chill out. We don't need all that. And the relationship between Dante and Lady still kind of irks me considering how they turned out during the last season. There is some unresolved things that need to be said. There are certain conversations that need to be had. And there's a certain level of conflict that should be there, but it's not been displayed. It's like the writers have chose to omit this on purpose, or they're that dumb that they've chose not to put it in there because they don't see it as an issue. Whereas a lot of people I've seen in certain comment sections have highlighted the fact that there's certain things that's happened between these two that they really should be like, feeling a certain way about, but it's just not been presented that way. So it's just like, huh, okay. But I guess we'll see because I still haven't finished the series yet, but I'm enjoying it. It just feels like it's similar to what it was before. There's still a lot of use of music in certain montages here and there. Sometimes the music just sort of spurs out of nowhere. It's like someone just put on a CD and I'm like, okay, well, that was unnecessary. Are you afraid to use film scores or something like that? Okay, fair enough. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But otherwise, it's an improvement. I'm not like gritting my teeth, bearing through this thing. It actually feels like I'm having a good time, but I guess we'll see.
All right. We'll look forward to your to the rest of the series for the report. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I heard that like Devil May Cry is rumored to be remastered soon. So, you know, we'll see how that works with the next gen systems. Since the last Devil May Cry was quite some time ago, I guess. Like, it's when was the last time Devil May Cry came out? When was the last Devil?
Was that five in like what? That was either 2020 or 2019, something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
2019. Yeah, it's last decade. Like people still
Yeah.
remember it. Like 2019, that was a million
Mm.
years ago. That was
Yeah,
last
like
generation. Mm-hmm.
yeah, back when I was like working at the comic book shop, like my friend was really big into that game and she was talking about how much she loved, like, is it Dante's like design as an older gentleman, still like very active, but like, obviously with the shadow and on the facial shadow and the way that they'd like utilize his move set and stuff. So I heard a lot of good things about Devil May Cry 5. I've never been great at those games, so I just don't tend to like, mess around with them too much. I've only ever played like Devil May Cry 1, and that was because my friend lended it to me, and he never asked for it back, so I still technically have it in my house somewhere. But I just couldn't get on board with that game. I played through a few chapters, but I think because it had that old school Resident Evil like fixed camera angle kind of thing, it really sort of like threw me off, and the amount of enemies that was just sort of come out of nowhere to come and get you, and I'm like, ah, crap. So yeah, I do want to try and give Devil May Cry 3 a chance because like everyone says that that's like, at least their go-to entry, especially for people starting out in the series if they don't want to go to the start. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We'll see. I would like to see Devil May Cry come back. If they were to find a way to remaster that first game and like bring it in line with like what came with 3 onwards, I think that would be pretty sick, but we'll see.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like Devil May Cry was a branch off from Resident Evil 4. They wanted to do something like really unique. But
Hmm.
what bore fruit was like, oh wow, that's a good game. Too bad it's not Resident Evil. So they kind of took that, made Devil May Cry, and redid the whole Resident Evil 4 to, you know, come out the way it is now. And fans have to thank Capcom for that, or else you don't have Devil May Cry, and you don't have the way Leon is right now. So, yeah, that was a good, what's that? Good development process. Good creative process that actually bore fruit in the end, instead of just being stuck in like development hell forever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, like I will try to come back and share my thoughts on Devil May Cry season 2 because it's at least interesting enough for me to go back and finish.
We'll see. Yeah, it's yeah. I think I'll. Yeah, we'll see.
um, but yeah, I guess like that's all the main topics to cover for today. So before we like run out the door, like Vincent, do you have any like final things you want to say to the audience?
Nothing much. May, just gearing up for the summer and reviewing. another visual novel. Like I just reviewed Mixtape, and I'm getting some jabs going like, "Ooh, do game journalists just love giving high marks for whatever?" No, play the game and find out for yourself. It's that good. But yeah, I'm reviewing another visual novel, and as just as a thing, it's not going to be rated as high. But yeah, like it does have some unique stories. But anyway, you can catch all that and all my reviews at onemoregame.ph, and you can follow me at Vincent Trinidad at Instagram. So be seeing you out there.
Thank you, Vincent. And if you want to follow me, I exist in most areas as Hypersonic55 on Instagram and that place known as Twitter, although I mostly just repost art on there. I don't really post much anymore. I'm on Blue Sky, but I haven't posted anything on there in like forever. So yeah, you'll mostly just find me on Instagram, mostly just either posting art or like just sharing just memes because like they keep me sustained throughout this dangerous life thing. And yeah, just in terms of the podcast, like From Pixels to Celluloid, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, the Acast website, which you should be able to find on Google. On terms of the socials, we're on like Instagram and TikTok as well. So if you haven't followed us there, give us a follow. That'd be grand. We post little clips here and there. I want to try and get some more of the older stuff out there just to see how that plays out. But yeah, I'll be posting every once in a blue moon, so look out for us. But yeah, thank you for listening, and yeah, take care.
Peace.